What's going on, everyone? LA Sports back with another video. In this video, I'm going to be recapping the first preseason game between the New York Giants and the New York Jets. I'm going to be talking about what I saw from the New York Giants, of course, and what we might expect in the next preseason game. But before I start, guys, please everyone like the video and subscribe to the channel. So the New York Giants did lose 12-7, but that's absolutely meaningless. I mean, you take a look at who was at quarterback. Mike Glennon, the backup, threw 7 passes. Only 3 were completed. And then there was Clayton Thorson, who, he wasn't that bad, but he's, going to compete to be the third string guy. But what we saw from the rest of the team is what I'm going to be recapping. And we're going to start off at the running back position. Sandro Platzgummer was very good. He had one terrific rush. But overall, he had 4 carries for 51 yards, which was very eye-popping at nearly 13 yards a carry. I think he's got the potential to potentially make the roster. Another guy who I think may be, in the end, the running back 2 or 3, Clement. He was very good. In 5 carries, he had 32 yards. And then, of course, the projected number 2 guy at the running back spot, who was second on the depth chart, was Devontae Booker. He had 3 carries with 12 yards. And then there was C.J. Board, who is a receiver who is going to compete for a spot on the roster. He had 1 carry for 12 yards. And then Eli Penny, I think he's far and away. I think he's going to end up making the team as the Giants fullback. And then Alfred Morris, I think he's got a potential chance to make the roster. But overall, I think there's going to end up being 5 guys who end up, 5 running backs who end up making the roster. I think it's going to be Saquon Barkley, Devontae Booker, Corey Clement, and then potentially Sandro Platzgummer, potentially Gary Brightwell, the guy that they drafted, potentially Alfred Morris. There's a few possibilities. But let's move on to the receivers. And a guy that I really think is going to make the roster, David Sills. A lot of people have been talking about him, and he was terrific in this game with 3 catches for 49 yards. I think he's going to end up making the roster as the 6th wide receiver on the depth chart. Damien Willis had a touchdown, a 21-yard pass. That was his only catch. I think he's a potential practice squad player. He's still young with a tiny bit of potential. So he might make the practice squad. Slayton made 1 catch for 8 yards. He wasn't really, he didn't really play much. But as for the offensive line, you didn't really see much from them. You didn't really see anything, actually. You saw a couple snaps from the starters. I think Will Hernandez was really, really eye-popping. I think, I'm really encouraged what I'm seeing from Hernandez. Thomas looked good in the, few snaps, and same thing with Nick Gates. Kenny Wiggins, that guy's not going to start. Whatever Giant fan is worried about that guy's not even going to make the team. Matt Parrott was a little bit shaky, but I think, I think he can definitely pick it up. But as for the offensive line, a lot of people are saying, they didn't take a step forward, but we haven't seen anything. From what we saw of the starters and the guys who, could potentially be in backup spots, I think I think it was very good, actually, in the very few snaps we saw from those guys. But that is my report on the offense. In terms of the defense, a couple of guys were really, really good in my opinion. Carter Coughlin, he stood out. He had a sack, but outside of the sack, he had 4 tackles. He was all over the place. I really liked what I saw from him. And then, there was a couple of other, decent guys that we saw. I thought Rodarius Williams was, he was all right. Nico Lalos was, fairly decent. He had 4 assist tackles, 1 tackle. So that stuff's all whatever. And then, of course, a couple injuries. TJ Brunson, he tore his ACL, so he's going to be out for the season. And then Joshua Kalu tore his pec. So those are 2 automatic guys that, tomorrow we need to cut 5 players. I think those 2 guys, ultimately will be cut. So that makes it, a little bit easier. It's unfortunate that it had to happen, especially TJ Brunson, a guy who was going into his 2nd year. But I think, in terms of the defense, I think Carter Coughlin was the biggest standout guy from this first preseason game, and I'm excited to see what he will bring in the second preseason game. I think he's got a real good chance to make this team and have a pretty, somewhat of a heavy role. But that's all I got in this video, guys. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Tell me what you think about this game. The score was absolutely meaningless. I think the offensive line was better than people are thinking, simply because of the fact that, the regulars were not in there, and the guys that were in there are not going to be playing, especially not in the starting lineup, that's for sure. But you guys let me know what you think down below in the comment section, and as always, please leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you guys are new. We'll see you guys all in the next video.